Hello guys, welcome back to Nest Talks. We got Kristoffer with us, the chairman of Nest, and we are so excited to hear more about the secrets of Nest and how it all started and so on. But maybe let's begin with your definition of what is Nest.
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting one. Well, it's a good place to start at least. So my definition of Nest is, I think, a place. I think I've always kind of defined it as like a home for the creators of tomorrow, which is also what we kind of talked about initially. It was like a place for people to both relax, but also to talk about ideas and be inspired by like-minded people. We kind of I held onto like a particular quote, which said, "You are the average of the people you gather around you." I think we still maybe have it on the website, but at least it's a very powerful quote, but it also rings quite true. So having very inspiring people around you, but also having people who knows a lot about things that you don't know a lot about, is very important, especially if you want to push yourself to do a little bit more, or do a little bit extra, or do something that you never would have done before initially. So I think that's Nest for me. Actually, I think it's also like a place of like a lot of people that I really like hold dearly. It's a place that I like to spend time with people. It's very inspiring to me as well. I always lived in a Nest a long time without actually having a business myself, just freelancing around. But it was quite good to be in a place where I could try out things and spar with other people and be inspired as well a lot. So it's meant a lot to me.
Do you see any trends, how it changed over time? Because it's been 5 years, right? We just had the fifth anniversary.
Yeah. I think it's always kind of been for the creators of tomorrow, you could say, and then you can how do you define the creators of tomorrow? I think I think we're actually returning a little bit to more into what it was initially, because initially it was of course entrepreneurial people, but it was also people who worked in startups and not so much. And I think that's kind of what we're going back to a little bit more, instead of just having the 3-4 people who created the business initially. And I think that's pretty cool, because then you get a lot of aspects of it, and also people who just work in startups are also very much people who are very inspiring in a sense. You need to be a certain kind of person to work in a startup. The salaries are the most important, but the journey is the most important thing. And creating a product for people and stuff like that. And I think that's and also just having people who are very inspiring to be with, who could do a lot of things, I think is also very nice. But I think it's been periods where it's been more the entrepreneurs in Nest, but it's also, I think now it's kind of a mix. But also initially it was a mix of people who were just involved in the entrepreneurial space, or were kind of a little bit entrepreneurial in the mindset, just like to do hacky projects on their side.
I mean, for me personally, I was kind of fascinated by the alumni that we saw on the gala. You know, the people who started here 5 years ago, that they already have big companies today. Even though they don't live here anymore. But that's amazing. You said it were the creators of tomorrow, and they really do have the companies today. That's really powerful.
A lot of them also had companies back then.
Yeah, of course.
For instance, Bellmetrics. I don't think they're called Bellmetrics anymore. But Massimil Geller, for instance, he has a company that he's been running since back then and still running now. And Massimil Mathisen also has a lot of he's involved in a lot of different things, and biometrics and those kind of things. It's really quite interesting.
So why co-living for you? Why a shared space like this?
So initially, it took some convincing initially. So Morten came to me and was like, I have this project that I want to work on. I want to he and another friend of his, Marius, they were kind of working on creating what was Nest. We initially called it House, but it was like it tried to like make it an abbreviation of something. It was like we ended up scrapping it, just calling it Nest because it was a good name.
Yeah.
And he was like, I have this cool project that I want to work on. Like, I need some expertise. I need some technical person who can like help us also with doing this for the website and everything like that. I was like, okay, I think it's really interesting and I want to help, but I don't think I can move at the moment. But he then slowly like started to convince me. I was living with a friend at that point, and I was also like, I really like living with this friend, but I also kind of also wanted someone who could share my passion for creating things and like and talk about weird ideas and creating businesses and stuff like that. So that was kind of what I was missing a little bit, and that inspiration that you get from living with this many like talented people.
Yeah.
So that's why I decided initially like to move out of my smaller nest and into like this place.
And so, how long time from the first time you heard about this idea thing to actually it becoming real?
I think we worked on it on a year or something like that.
Okay.
But it was also like it's also like a part-time thing. But I was not the most involved person in this. I was like Dan Morten and Peter were very much like the driving factors behind Nest, or the initial like creation of it. We had also had a lot of help from Peter Book, who's our current landlord. And Nest wouldn't be here today without him actually. And he also tried to help us initially finding like a building to move into. That was like the original idea was to move into to a building where we could like own the building. So a lot of the time was initially spent on that, and also finding some investors to buy the building. So we created a website and was like, let's just try this thing. So we just created a website because it was like, it's very hard to get investors if you don't have like a concept that is proven. So we initially were like, okay. So we just pretended that we had this place. We knew what building we kind of wanted, but we didn't have the investors to buy it with. So we had, so we made a website as if that was the building that we were all going to be moving into. There was room for like 17 people or something like that. So we created like an infographic and like a whole website for it. And it was like, okay, we're looking for like 17 people to move in with us, and like we were like, okay, but we're opening it up in December or something like that year. And then we were trying to get, and then we opened it up for applications to just see what we can get. And we ended actually up getting 35 applicants or something like that was willing to like move in with us. And what we then did was like take these 35 applicants and was like, we went to the to some investors and was like, hey, we actually have 35 people interested in moving into Nest or like in such a constellation. We then later on, like, we wrote all the people that were like, we're not, like, we're just pretending, right, basically. So we didn't really give them an answer back, unfortunately. But later point then, when we actually found this place, we also knew ourselves that, okay, we could actually find people. So we ended up going a couple of months, and then we sent out another one after we found that we were going to move into this place. We wrote out, again, to all the people who already applied. I was like, hey, are you still interested? And then we used their application. And also we wrote another burst to figure out if like there was more people that was interested in moving in. And then we did like a couple of rounds. It was like I think one round where we initially just talked to all the people and like introduced them to the concept of Nest. And then we did like a second one where it was like speed dating, where people were like sitting and talking with one person, then moving on to like another one. So we could like move and meet most people, and then we could also figure out like who did we think fit the best into Nest initially. Yeah, so it was quite interesting.
So out of the 35 people, anyone moved?
No, we actually ended up getting more people. But yeah, we like full house from initial, from get go.
Yeah. So if you had unlimited budget, what would be the perfect accommodation for you?
Accommodation, like living place?
Yeah, living place. It could be literally anything.
And where would it be? Would it be in Denmark?
On the moon?
Somewhere in space? Would it be US?
I think I'm very happy about living in Denmark. So I think it would be in Denmark. Probably a little bit bigger apartment or something like that. But yeah. Most likely not. I also dreamt of, well, maybe, I don't know. I think I have a dream of going to the States, New York, living there for some time, just like feeling what it's like to live in New York. I'd really like to try and do that and see what it's like to live there. So I think that's one of my smaller dreams, which is quite achievable though. I don't have like a need to live like a very flamboyant life or like have like a crazy big house or something like that. But it'd be nice to try and live in the States or in New York and see what it's like to live like you do in the movies, basically, right? So I think that could be fun and cool to try that. Probably pretty expensive though, but I think that's like would be my first choice.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll probably go back to Denmark again.
Okay, there's one question I have. Tell us a secret of Nest or something like some news we have not heard, like something we can like share to the rest of the guys. We can share to them like, okay, you need to listen to our podcast and watch our video because we have dirty news. Come on, like something that people don't know, which is like, okay, that is news, you know, or a event that took place or a fun story or something.
I think we've had a couple of like weird parties where it's like people have just like come in from the street and like taken part in the parties, and people are like, who the fuck are these guys? And nobody knows. Like, so that's been like, I think that's been like the bigger like what the fuck is happening or going on, because like we are right next to like east together and everything. So it's been like a New Year's party where it's like suddenly it was just like 4 or 5 extra guys and nobody was like, who the fuck are these people? And like, what in the world are they doing here? And there's obviously Rasmus's story of bringing like in a random stranger and
that's true. Yeah.
And my shit story.
Your shit story.
It was not my shit, but it was like a random stranger that I met. I haven't told you.
You can share it again.
Okay,
share it right now.
So it's like I met a guy. I was like a guy standing in the courtyard. Who's like pretty. He was pretty stressed out. And he was like, "Hey, can you like? Is there a toilet somewhere?" It's like, yeah, the backpackers, they have a toilet. You can probably use that. So he went over to the door. It's like for the people who don't know, we like share the courtyard with a hostel. Which is called Backpackers Copenhagen. So he went over to the door and like just starting like ringing on the bottom button, like trying to open the door, like pretty panically. And then I was like, okay, he seems like he's pretty much like he's in distress. So I'm just gonna help him. So I'm like, okay, you can also borrow my toilet. I was like on the way out to hand over some keys to a friend of mine for her another friend's apartment at that time. And then I was like, okay, you can come in. And then I showed him the toilet, and I was like, okay, just checking like initially, like, is there not if not toilet paper, if you have like a very bad stomach, because you wanted to pee, who's just gonna do it somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So I sat in the living room, and I was checking the toilet roll. I was like, yeah, this is my toilet paper. Went back into the kitchen, just sat there and waited until he came out because I wanted to be sure that he didn't steal or do anything. Right? So then he came out and he left it like pretty quickly. I was like, okay, fine, hi. Then I was like, okay, I'll just check if everything is normal. So I went to the bathroom to check if like everything was normal, and I just like as I got closer to the bathroom, I was like, okay, he had a really bad stomach, so he was smelling pretty bad. So I went out there, and I was like, I can open the door, and it's like we had like a carpet on the floor. I was like, there's shit on the carpet. I could see like on the toilet there was like a little bit like some shit stains in the toilet. I was like, okay, this is really shitty. And also on the like where you dry your hands, like I was like, okay, this is a crappy situation. To say that, no pun intended. And then I could see like there was like a small bulb, like in like the carpet was like a little bit higher in one end, like near the toilet. So like I pulled back the carpet, and it was like a turd underneath the toilet, just laying there. I was like, oh my fucking god. Yeah, so, literally. So,
Jesus.
Did you clean it up?
Yeah, I had to clean it up. So I cleaned it up and I threw out everything.
Yeah, shit happens. Yeah.
Yeah, shit happens. Shit literally happens. Yeah. So,
that's bad.
Yeah. So it was really bad. It was it was cold.
Wow.
The turret, that was nice. It was like I think it was in his pants, and he was like, as he was standing out there, I was like panicking so much. So yeah, I feel bad for the guy, but also feel bad for me. So I was a little bit delayed.
I think so. I'm thinking about it right now, yeah. But then you had pretty interesting excuse.
Yeah, exactly. So someone just sat on my toilet, not in the toilet, on the toilet. Yeah.
Did he ask for it? Like, did he ask like, can I shit on your toilet?
And also all the toilet roll was gone, so I think he tried to like fix everything, but he's like he just failed.
Was he drunk or something?
I think he was just.
Okay.
I don't know what the fuck.
Wow.
Okay. The last question on co-living. 3 things that you need to you would take with you to a lonely island. So you just have to go there. It's just a dead island. What would you bring?
I think pretty easy for me actually. I would bring my computer.
Yeah.
And like what do you call it? Solar cells.
Yeah.
And a satellite receiver, so I could get internet. Because then you can fix everything as long as you have internet. So that. Yeah.
Okay. Boom.
Also, being the nerd that I am, I need something to be able to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I would code.
But
I would at least look up the stuff.
Yeah. So he found Morten wanted to bring a computer as well, but he forgot the satellite and all that stuff.
Yeah, I need internet. You need internet, but Elon Musk is working on getting internet with satellites. So actually, you just need a pizza-sized satellite dish to be able to receive that signal. So I would definitely bring one of those.
Yeah. And then Google is doing this with balloons.
Yeah, Google's also doing it. Facebook is doing it with the planes, and there's a lot going on in that space.
Yeah. So remote work from lonely islands.
Yeah. Definitely. And also, you can get help if you want to at some point get out.
Yeah.
It's pretty helpful, yeah.
But cool, guys. Thank you so much. And we had some. We can call it dirty news. Actually, too dirty. Really beyond dirty news.
I'm sorry about that.
Really went for it.
Totally.
But cool, guys. If we see you guys in the next episode, and we're gonna be there, then I think it's gonna be nice. Cool. And that will be about happiness, which I definitely have some questions. But cool. See you.